This is Michelle Hughes from Ageless and Timeless. Today's podcast is brought to you by Water and Wellness. Recently, I had the opportunity to visit Water and Wellness at their offices, and I can tell you that as far as you and I are concerned and our health is concerned, this is one of the most important places that you can go to find water that is purified and products that will help your longevity and your overall health. Visit waterandwellness.com to learn how you can take control of your drinking water and learn about those natural additives to optimize your health and longevity. Contact Stacy at 877-296-6880. Use the Ageless code and you'll get a 20% discount on all your products.
My love for you is immeasurable. My respect for you immense. You're ageless, timeless, lace and fineness, your beauty and elegance.
Okay, so we're very fortunate today to have a guest who's coming to us from Miami, and where it's nice and warm. And we're going to talk today about wellness again, and this is going to be very timely because it's about basically staying at home and creating beautiful meals for your family, for yourself if you're by yourself, and to basically find the healthy regime that will serve you for the rest of your life, not just during this very unusual time. So my guest is Kara Burnstine, and by the way, Burnstine is spelled Burnstine. And Kara is actually a nutritionist, but a dietitian, but she's been doing this for about 20 years, right, Kara?
Yep, 20 years.
Yeah, and she, full disclosure, Kara is one of my relatives. She's my sister-in-law, and that is not a bias whatsoever, because if I didn't have a relation to her, I would still be recommending her services for all that I've read about what she does and how she does it. So, Kara, welcome to Ageless and Timeless, and I'm hoping that you and your family are doing well during this lockdown period. It's certainly a time to find family bonding. If we can look at the positive side of this, is we're all there in it together. And so I hope that that's been the case with you and Michael and the children, and that you're finding this to be an opportunity to connect with each other with free time that you didn't have before. So why don't you tell us why you are doing what you do? What is it that inspires you to be a facilitator for people who are looking for better health? And also, of course, the big one is weight loss. So why don't you go ahead and just let us know what it is that inspires you to do what you do?
Okay. Well, thank you so much for the kind introduction. And I guess what inspired me to do what I do kind of goes back to my childhood, really. I think all of our passions and all of our worries and all of our stuff, so-called baggage, probably comes from our childhood and our experiences in our childhood and how we responded and reacted to them. So I can tell you from my experience when I was young, I pretty much ate whatever I wanted, never really thought about it, was always a thin person, had a great life. Food just wasn't on my head. But all of a sudden, when I got to high school and my hormones started changing and I started becoming a woman, there was a lot of changes going on and my body was changing and I was feeling uncomfortable in my skin. And which is fairly common for a teenager to go through, hormonal changes and be uncomfortable in their skin. Plus, it's also a time when you're insecure, right? Because you're just trying to figure out who you are and you want everybody to like you and all that kind of stuff. So I was starting to have issues with food. I was having poor relationships with food. I was scared to eat certain foods because I thought that they had too much fat or too much salt or too much sugar or too much anything in them. And quite frankly, I was very uneducated about food and what's good and what's not. So I basically just started skipping meals and, just not eating properly. And it was starting to worry my mom, actually. So I'm really, really happy to say, instead of my mom freaking out about the situation that was happening in my relationship with food, she basically just came up to me and said, you know what, Kara, I think it might be a good idea for you to see a nutritionist, because you're asking a lot of questions and you need answers. So why don't you go talk to the expert? And so when I was 16 years old in high school, I saw a nutritionist, and she totally changed my life. She taught me what food does to our body, how food affects our body in positive and negative ways, and how it affects our mind psychologically. And so, you know, after my whole experience with a nutritionist, I went off to college, and I just, you know, at that time was like, that was my aha moment, and said, you know, had I not met this woman, I'm not really sure where I would be today with food and how I felt about food and health, because I really was uneducated and was just grasping and reaching and reading things that may not necessarily be accurate, because there's all kinds of crazy things out there that we read, because when we want to lose weight, we we'll stand on our head, we'll do all sorts of things that somebody says that it works. But at the end of the day, what really works is knowledge, and speaking about it, and understanding your relationship and how you feel about food, not only what you're putting in your mouth, but what you're thinking about when you're putting the food in your mouth. And that connect was very real for me. And so I was so grateful that I was able to have that experience. And I really just wanted to share that with other people that had similar experiences that I did with food, because it is quite common back then, 20 years ago, and today.
So what exactly, after you visited with her, what exactly did you do? What did you change to create this epiphany that was showing you results, that you were actually making the right decisions about food?
Okay, that's a really good question. Well, one of the things that she showed me was to trust the process, because what I find a lot of times with my own experience, and also with a lot of my clients, is that they have these ideas in their head of what they should be doing to lose weight. So there's a lot of questions out there, like, can I eat fruit after 8 p.m.? Is it okay to eat carbs at each meal? There's all these very in the weeds type of questions that people ask, because they read so much stuff out there that says don't eat carbs, don't eat something after 8. There's all sorts of different rules and regulations that are extremely confusing. And what the nutritionist really gave to me was a trusting relationship with her, to know that what she was telling me was real. And that if I tried to eat, say, like if I was afraid to eat anything with fat in it, like, for example, I wouldn't put butter on toast or something like that, because I was fearful that the fat in the butter was going to make me gain weight. She would say to me, well, the best thing that you could do, Kara, is try to put butter on your toast and see what happens. And if you don't gain weight and you feel better, then you know you're doing the right thing and you're trusting the process. So it was something that the epiphany for me was that I really had to build the rapport with the nutritionist to trust her and her process. And once I finally did, because she spoke my language and she understood my pains and my struggles, I said, this woman knows what I'm talking about. So I'm going to get my feet wet, and I'm going to put that butter on that toast and see what happens. And I really felt better, and I didn't gain any weight. So from then on, little by little, I started getting a better relationship with food and understanding that food is nourishing. Food gives you energy. Food allows you to have children, because the other thing that she taught me, that I don't know if a lot of people know, but if you don't have enough fat in your body, you don't menstruate. And if you don't menstruate, you cannot have children. And I will say, that's, now that I'm thinking about it, because this was, I was 16 years old, I'm 48 years old. This is a very long time ago, but I will never forget one question that she asked me. And she said, do you want to have children someday? And I said, yes, I do want to have children someday. And she said, well, what you're doing right now may prohibit that, because you're not ovulating right now, because you're not nourishing your body, and it can affect your fertility. So, in all that you're trying to help your body, you're actually damaging it. And that was sort of my epiphany, like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I started trusting and listening, and it worked.
So were you actually anorexic at the time that you
Um,
went to see her?
I was on the road to anorexia. I wouldn't say I was anorexic, but my body fat was low enough that I wasn't menstruating for a good long
Yeah,
time.
yeah. You were afraid of food
Yes,
because you were
I had a,
afraid of your, yeah. You
and
didn't
because,
have a, you had like a love-hate relationship going on with food. You wanted it and you wanted to do the right thing, but on the other hand, you were afraid of the results and you didn't have enough knowledge
I
to
didn't have the knowledge.
understand. Yeah, I think that was
Exactly.
the key. She helped you to gain the insight. Okay, so then let's talk about the steps of the nutritional steps, the food that actually made the difference for you. So if you can give us kind of a simple, summary. We all know the categories: the protein, the fats, and the carbs, simple carbs and complex carbs. But
Right.
what came through that has served you throughout the rest of your life? Because you're a role model now for so many people who are intersecting with you in your client relationships and also in your website and in your 21-day cleansing program, which we'll talk about in a minute. So why don't you tell us some of, just simplify it for us. Let's go through the food chart and say
Okay.
what are the foods that are the most important and nourishing to start to build the foundation of this nutritional house.
Okay. Well, one of the things that I always show my clients the first time I ever speak with them or talk with them is a little graphic. And what I show them is that a lot of people know. I say, "Do you know what foods have carbs?" And they'll say, "Yeah, bread, rice, cereal, pasta." And what foods are vegetables? Broccoli, salad. So they pretty much know the food groups. But
Yeah.
what's really, really important that I show them is the division of how you should eat them proportion wise. And that is super, super key because what that teaches people is that there's really no foods off limits. What you really got to focus on is a proper balance of the food.
Mm,
So
mm,
I show them that if you have a plate and you cut your plate in half, right? 50%
mhm,
50% of that plate, ideally, this is not every single day, but this is an ideal situation, should contain vegetables.
mhm,
Vegetables are super high in fiber. They're
mhm,
extremely low in calories. They're about 25 calories in a cup of raw vegetables. So you can eat
mhm,
those till the cows come home.
mhm.
They're not
Right.
necessarily going to make you gain weight, but they're going to fuel your body with a whole lot of fiber, antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, all this good stuff
Right.
that's going to keep you healthy. And that's really the bulk of what your diet is. And then I show them the other 50% of the plate and I cut that in half. And so then we have about 25% protein and then we have 25% carbohydrates. And then I say, okay, let's talk a little bit about protein foods. Proteins repair muscles, they build energy, we need them for our hormones, all sorts of
Mhm.
things. So then we
Well,
should
and they
and
burn
talk
fat. They burn fat, which is really important for a lot of people.
right. Exactly. So the thing, and then we go a little bit more into detail, like what types of proteins should we focus on, right?
Mhm,
We don't want to
mhm,
focus on the proteins that are loaded with antibiotics and hormones and cows that are fed with all sorts of grain all day. And so they're really, really big because I explained to them all those hormones and all those corn fed grains that these cows are eating and antibiotics, when we consume them, they go into us. Obviously, not
right.
to the same extent, but nonetheless, the more we eat them, the more that we get. So when you're going to the grocery store, it's important to know are you getting eggs that are organically grown with no pesticides, with no hormones? Are the chickens on top of each other or are they free ranging? I mean, these are things
Mhm,
that are important that people should pay attention to.
mhm,
So I really focus that on the protein section. And then when we get over to the carb section, that's always the most challenging space, right? Because people love carbs. Carbs are
mhm,
comforting. Carbs
mhm.
give us energy. Carbs
Right.
make us happy. But then I really, really focus on the type of carbs that we're consuming. And if you think about it, if you eat foods that grow in the ground or in a tree, right? Like if you eat a potato or an apple or something like that, it's whole. It's not processed. It doesn't start out one way and end up another. So it's intact and it holds all the nutrients that are in the food. And that's the way nature intended it to be. And that's the way our body assimilates the food in the best way. Once we start degrading and processing the food, our body doesn't always recognize it, and it starts mutating and causing gut disturbances or skin problems or bloat or headaches, all sorts of things because of what's inside the food, added sugars, added salt, colors, flavorings, all of that stuff that we don't always pay attention to, but we should, because it affects our overall health. So I pretty much focus on, it's really important to eat the carbs that are whole and unprocessed, number one. And number two, if weight loss is your goal, you have to keep it to a smaller amount of your plate. And if you do that, it works for the most part.
So now let's talk about fat.
Okay, so in the fat space, so I kind of talked about the plate. It's a circle, and we said 50% is vegetable, and then 25% protein, 25% carbohydrate. Then what I do in the plate is I draw a tiny little circle right in the middle of that plate, and that's where fat goes. And the reason why I put the fat right in the center of that circle, it's because for the most part, every time you eat a meal or even a snack, I pretty much encourage people to add the fat in there. And the reason for that is that fat is really, really satiating. It keeps us full for a longer period of time. Now, it's really important that we choose the right fats, right? Because certain fats are saturated, they clog our arteries, they cause, heart problems, diabetes, strokes, cancer, all these, all different types of metabolic diseases. So I'm really not supporting those types of fats all the time, but the plant-based fats are the ones like, olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, nut butters, olives, those types of things. They are total fats, so they're super satisfying to our bodies and keep us full for a longer period of time. But at the same time, they're increasing our health. They're taking away inflammatory all over our bodies. They're increasing our heart health. They're preventing diabetes. They're preventing Alzheimer's, all sorts of things. So those are the fats that I really focus on for all my clients. But I also remind them, you see how little that circle is? It's very, very small. It's very moderate because fats are super caloric and super dense. So we need to treat them respectfully. And if we do, they don't really make us gain weight. They just keep us healthy because they keep us satisfied, and they help balance our hormones as well. So
and what about the brain? What about the brain? I mean, the fat is one of the major components of the brain, and yet that's what the keto diet advocates are trying to claim, that you can eat, if it's the right fat, you can eat a lot of fat.
Yes. You can, well, yes, but that is true. And the keto diet, quite honestly, the keto diet works for some, but not for all.
I agree.
Part of the reason that is because everybody's body is very unique and different. And so for the most part, our bodies turn to carbohydrates as our first fuel for energy.
Right.
Because that's where nature intended it to go, quite honestly. But when you take away the carbohydrate entirely, the body has to adapt itself and create another pathway. So it goes through the fatty acids, which helps burn the fat faster, which helps people lose the weight easier. But the problem with that is that you're excluding entire food groups that have really important nutrients in them that a lot of people really need. So in my opinion, I'm not saying the keto diet is bad or good. I'm just saying it's a little bit unbalanced. So for a lot of people, it doesn't work. It's not sustainable, and it doesn't work for long periods of time.
Kara, I couldn't agree with you more. And I'm not a big, fan of these fad diets. And to me, the keto is just another fad diet. And unfortunately, just as you said, it can be very dangerous, actually, because if you get into ketosis and your kidneys are being overloaded with the processing of fats, some people, because it isn't a one size fits all, but some people can have reactions that are negative. And so you're absolutely correct. And you've seen that.
I have seen it. But see, unfortunately, people, for the most part, it's human nature to want results fast, right? And
That's right.
one of the things the keto diet can give you is fast results because
That's right.
your body is basically in shock. So when your
Yeah.
body goes in shock, it loses the weight. But once the shock is over and it adapts to that, a lot of
Right.
times for many people, that weight loss completely stops. And then
Right.
like I said in the beginning, people start getting a poor relationship with food because instead of being afraid of fat, they
Right.
become afraid of carbohydrates. Same issue, different food, but there's no balance, right? It's just not balanced. So in my opinion, like you said, the fad diets, they're kind of like fashion, like sometimes high rises in, sometimes low rises in, bell bottoms, straight jeans, skinny jeans. These things go in and out, but
Right.
they're really not here to stay. And so I really focus on lifestyle, working on the head, good relationship with food. So sometimes we eat, all the best foods for our body. And there are other times when comfort is important and we need to have a little mac and cheese, and we're going to be okay with that because that's not going to be every day.
Right. It's the old story about everything in moderation. But if once you get to the extremes, you can actually do more harm than good.
Yes.
And the other little trick, I was curious to know if you share this with your clients and your followers, is to stay out of the middle of the grocery store. Just focus on the
Yes,
aisles.
yes.
Yeah,
That's
you do
one of
that.
my favorite. That is definitely one of my pearls.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I take people to the grocery store a lot. And what we do pretty much is, most people when they go to the grocery store, they kind of do S's, right? They go down one aisle and then round and round and round.
Right.
When
Right.
I go to the grocery store with my clients, we go in a square. We just go around the perimeter. We get
Good.
everything that we need, and I explain to them there's some things in the middle that we can get, but for the most part, what's in the middle of the grocery store are the boxed and the processed foods.
Right.
And
That's right.
the other thing just to throw in that's really interesting, and this is all about marketing and advertising, is that the most unhealthiest foods are at eye level.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the more healthy foods that people choose less often are either where you can't reach them or down below where you don't see them because, grocery stores are smart. They put what sells right in front of your face.
Kind
So
of like what the media is doing to us right now. It's what
yeah,
sells.
what
Negative
sells?
fear. Yeah, it's what
Absolutely.
sells. So we're doing the
So
same thing in the food world. But take
yes.
a moment and let's talk. I know you mentioned about protein and meat. And I think it's really important that we emphasize the selection of the meat if you're going to eat meat. And that includes poultry and even fish. So I think we need to address first, starting with meat, the fact that if you're eating meat, as you said, that have
Hmm.
hormones and water, they've been fed water that has been corrupted by pharmaceutical drugs that other people have taken that are now in the water supply, and the cows are drinking the water. And then you've got the issue of the overproduction, the stimulation with the injections that they give, and then their feed is corn, and that's weight gaining and very negative on the body. So, and a lot of that is GMO corn,
Yeah, that's what I was going to
genetically
say.
modified.
Genetically
Yeah.
modified. So
So
yeah, I mean,
the conclusion, if the way I hope that your clients can understand this is it's doesn't have to be depressing. You have options if you want, and the options are to
absolutely.
go to the market that has grass fed for one thing, and
Hmm.
grass-fed beef and organic, because that means they haven't been sprayed or if it's a cow that it's eating grass that is organic. It's nature, and
Yeah.
they're usually not going to be spraying the grass because grass grows so prolifically. So that's one thing for beef. And then with chicken, that you want to be sure that it's organic, of course, and free range, which
Free
I know
range.
this.
Mhm.
Yeah, so that's a catch-all, right? Free range,
I
because
mean,
what does that
yeah.
mean?
Well, basically what that means, and the best way that I think about it, and that can, just kind of help me continue eating better, chickens and eggs, is that in my mind, I see the coops. They're
Yeah,
all like, the little cages, and
yeah,
literally they're in the cages on top of each other,
yeah,
doing whatever they, eating, excreting, all of that stuff
yeah,
on top of each other.
right.
That
And
cannot, that
how
how
unhealthy. Yeah,
unhygienic, unhealthy that is.
yeah,
So they're not cage free, right? And then the other chickens are just hanging out, roaming around, being happy. And the other thing that we also have to think about, and I don't know if people think about this that much, but it actually is true. When our bodies are stressed, right? We it affects us physically. We have inflammation.
mm-hmm,
Sometimes it can spark an autoimmune disease. The
mm-hmm,
the psychological absolutely affects the physical,
right,
and the same thing happens to the animals, by the way.
right. That's
When
right.
when they're cooped up and they're caged and they're not treated right and they don't roam freely, they release a lot of stress hormones and a lot of inflammation, and they're really just not healthy animals. Just like we wouldn't be healthy people if we were like that. So not only is it completely like sad and inhumane for those poor chickens, but they're really just not healthy chickens, and we're consuming them. So that visual helps me continue to
That's
eat
such a
chicken.
great tip, and honestly, I think if everybody thinks about the source before they buy, like think about what it is, where did this originate? Where did this chicken come from before I
Right.
buy my chicken or my fish? If was the fish
How was it
wildly
right? Right.
wildly
How was it
caught,
raised?
or yeah, because if fish is farm raised, they're feeding it, unfortunately, things that you don't even want to know about.
You don't, and
Um,
most of us just don't know about it because either we
right.
don't want to know or it's just not our thing. It's not a priority. It's
That's
just
right.
everybody has
Uh,
different priorities, but your health is super important.
so
So it
that's
should
so that
should be
that's a good
priority.
thing to, yeah, it's really good to tell your clients, think about this, the origination of what you're buying. Go way back into the food chain and think
Right.
about that animal or that, fish, and what were they like before they were finding their way into the supermarket. What treatment did they have? What food were they fed? What sprays were put on them? Because a lot of it is about making them grow faster. So yeah, I think
Bigger,
that's,
fatter, faster, all that stuff.
yeah, I
And
think
the
that's
truth
so.
is, if you know, I'm sorry to interrupt, Michelle, but if
Oh
you
no.
notice, and people do, like, listen, the other thing on the flip side, I'm not saying like 100% of the time that we always have to eat, hormone free, because, at some point we're going to go out to restaurants. Not every single restaurant is going to have all of that. So even though I press the importance of it, I also reel the people back in and say, listen, moderation is key here. We're not
Hmm.
perfect.
Right.
I'm not telling you never to go out to a restaurant that has chickens that are not organic, because I think that's a little bit
Right.
unrealistic and can impact our socialization. And I don't think it's great, but it's still really important to, like you said, know where your food comes from. And when you go to the restaurant, you kind of know where it comes from, but you say to yourself, you know what? I don't really do this very often, and I love this restaurant, so it's okay for today. But when I'm home and I'm cooking, I'm going to make sure it's so accessible. Every grocery store has organic eggs, organic meat, organic chickens. I mean, today and with the Corona stuff,
Hmm.
that's a little different story. But other than that, for a good number of years now, the accessibility of organic it's very accessible. It's not like
Right.
only a certain group of people can afford it or anything like that. It's very commercialized, and it's very available out there.
And the other thing too, Kara, is to form a love affair with vegetables is something
Hmm.
that a lot of people find a little foreign. However, as you said, if half your plate is vegetables, then it's imperative on you as the individual. Remember, food is your medicine, and food is your lifeline to health. So if you're going to take that step and be motivated to great health and have food that's going into your body that's supporting that, then you need to form a love affair with vegetables. That's like, it's a given. So how do you go about doing that if you're a person that's been eating a lot of processed food, and you're going to fast food restaurants and so forth? How do you get to the point of loving your vegetables?
That's a really good question. And the best answer I could give you is baby steps. If I get a client I get all different types of clients. I get some super healthy clients that just want to be more healthy. And then I get other clients that, they know that they've been eating the wrong foods for many years, and they have very stressful jobs. They don't have time to cook, and their lifestyle is crazy. But they're getting a little bit older. Their cholesterol is going up. They're starting to get a little bit pre-diabetic. Things are happening. They're starting to get concerned, and they want to make a change. But, change is hard when you've been doing something for a really long time. So I just really ask the question, what is it that you're willing to do? And let's work on it. And, if vegetables weren't really in your repertoire for the last 20 years, let's just pick one or two and let's give them a whirl. And usually the other thing that I tell them about vegetables is try and pair your vegetable with something that you really do enjoy. So for example, if somebody really likes, like, say, ranch dressing or something like that, which, I'm not going to say ranch dressing is healthy by any stretch, but if it'll help them eat some carrots, I'd say go ahead and, dip your carrots in ranch dressing, because you're pairing something that's very familiar to you and that you like with something that's a little bit unfamiliar. But the likelihood of you actually liking it is higher because you're pairing it with something that's comforting and you like and is good. So sometimes I don't always get so caught up in, like, everything that they're eating is completely healthy, as long as they're starting to include the vegetables in the diet, and it becomes a habit. It's not something that they just try once and say, see you later. Okay, Kara told me to try a vegetable and I did, but now I'm done. That's not really the goal. It's really like, take the little baby step, get your feet wet, try it with something that you like, and then see how it goes. And then we go to the next one. The other thing that I find to be super helpful with people with getting the vegetables in is roasting them. People think that you just have to steam broccoli and eat it that way. And quite frankly, it doesn't really taste that good if you just steam broccoli and you don't put anything on it, right? But if you add a little bit of extra virgin olive oil and some spices that are, spices are really good for you. They're medicinal. So we use them as flavor sources, and that really helps people say, wow, this isn't bad. And I'll give you like an example that happened. I don't know, I have kids that are teenagers now, and, trying to get kids to eat vegetables isn't always the easiest thing. Even if your mom is a nutritionist, it's like, I think they go to the flip side sometimes and they want to, rebel. So they want Burger King all the time. But one of the things that I found for my kids that really worked was I would roast kale, and they were really crunchy, like chips. So that's another thing. If you could air fry your vegetables a little bit or make them crunchy, people like that crunch. They kind of think that they're eating potato chips. So that's just another way to like entice people. And kale chips, super healthy, a lot healthier than potato chips. But when you make them crunchy and you add a little olive oil to them and some spices, they taste good. And people are like, oh wow, I guess I like kale. I'm like, yeah, you like kale. So it's just a matter of bringing it out and taking baby steps.
Yeah. So, okay. So I think we have some basics for what the plate should look like. The 50% vegetables, and those vegetables can be a salad with, raw vegetables. Raw vegetables are a little harder to digest. So people need to be aware that, maybe your body doesn't always want raw, but lightly steamed. So there's another whole issue that, again, not one size does not fit all, but most salads, if you keep them simple with, organic lettuce or kale or spinach, you can be so creative. There's tons of cookbooks on just, making salads, but most people, are creative enough, they can think about what do I like, and that can go into the salad. And then, like you said, avoid those very heavy calorie salad dressings, because that kind of defeats the purpose. You can maybe
Absolutely.
do a little if that's really important to you, like ranch dressing. But honestly, if you can learn to eat olive oil and balsamic, or olive oil and red wine vinegar and fresh lemon, and some nice herbs, you have a salad dressing that is so nutritious, and yet it doesn't have all those calories. So, but anyway, salads are a big one. But then the steamed vegetables, with, like you said, putting olive oil on steamed vegetables, if you add some seasoning,
Spices,
yeah, spices. And I was thinking, with the COVID crisis, more and more people who have a yard are going to be turning to, some hobbies, let's say, creating a hobby
yes,
where
absolutely.
so why not grow some herbs or even some vegetables, maybe plant a lemon tree. Like we can do that in California and Hawaii, where I used to live, and Florida, where you are, much
Hmm.
easier. But summertime is coming, and so anybody could, anywhere in the country could have an herb garden, and you can do that right on your windowsill if you don't have a yard. So I
Absolutely.
think it's
There's
going to
no
be more.
excuses. There's no excuses. Like there's always so many ways to skin a cat. It's just
Yeah.
honestly, it's the desire and the motivation that is the key to
Well, not only that, but during this lockdown, it gives you something that's
something to
creative,
do.
and the joy of picking your dinner, or picking a part of your dinner, like with fresh herbs that are going to add some, that, and then seeing something grow that you've planted is really, I think, very nurturing.
Exciting. Yeah.
Exciting. Yeah, very
Very
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah. All right.
I
Well,
great idea.
go ahead, Kara. Well, I want to leave us time, because I know you offered to give us a recipe, a demo.
Yes.
And
yes,
I think that's
yes.
going to be so exciting. So why don't we do that right now? Why don't you?
Okay.
I know you have to move into your kitchen.
Yes. So
but
follow me to my.
yeah,
actually,
we're going to follow you. Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
This is,
and just so you know, Kara's going to treat us today to a smoothie, and we thought that would be easiest, because there isn't anybody that can't do a smoothie if they're so motivated. As long as you have a blender or a Vitamix or a Cuisinart, a little Cuisinart even could do it if you don't have the big stuff. But Kara's going to show us how she makes this particular smoothie, which has a kind of
the Vitamix, actually.
You have a Vitamix, yeah.
I have the Vitamix. And I'm going to tell you that the Vitamix is not cheap, okay?
Right.
However, this is something that you get what you pay for. So this Vitamix I got, I think, in 2014. So it's about 6 years old. I use it probably 1 to 2 times a day.
Right.
And it still works perfectly. So quite frankly, my feeling about the Vitamix is that you'll have it like for a lifetime almost.
Right.
If you bought some of those other blenders, you would spend more money, because they really don't last. And the other thing is that these things crush anything and everything. They're super, super powerful. So you can put all sorts of vegetables and stuff in it, and it just crushes it. So it makes your smoothies and your dips and your soups or whatever you're making in it really, really smooth. So, if your health is important and you want to make an investment, you got to think about like the lasting of it and the quality of it. And I don't know about all, products. There's certain kitchen tools that I buy very cheaply because they last well, but I will say, and I don't get anything from Vitamix or anything like that. I'm just, speaking from my heart that this is like my best friend. I use it every.
And you know what, Kara, you have another supporter on that subject, because, being a real estate developer and having a number of different properties that are furnished in my history, at one point I had 6 Vitamix.
Oh my God.
One in every house that was operating at that time. Today I've got it down to, I think, 3. But I wouldn't be without a Vitamix, and that is something. We're not here to plug Vitamix, because neither one of us are involved, other than personally thinking that it is a life-saving piece of equipment because it's so versatile. And, it can make soups. I mean, so it makes hot things, it makes cold things, it just makes everything, crushes ice.
It makes everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a game changer. It really is.
All right.
So,
good.
Okay, let's get started. Okay, so what I'm going to make today is called a chocolate avocado smoothie. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy, chocolate and avocado, but listen, why are we here today? We're talking about healing foods, anti-inflammatories, things that are going to help preserve our brains, our memory, prevent things like Alzheimer's, dementia, cardiovascular disease, all of that kind of stuff. And what also is so interesting about smoothies is when you blend these different things together, you don't always taste the things that you don't want to taste. For example, vegetables. So we were talking about, sometimes it's hard to get people to eat vegetables. Well, one really, really simple, easy way, or another way to get people to eat vegetables is to put them in a smoothie, because a lot of times they're hidden and you don't really taste them, but you're still getting the benefits from them. So this is one thing I do a lot with my kids, because just another easy way to sneak it in without them really feeling it. Okay?
That's right. And of course, let's take a moment and talk about an avocado, because nobody historically thought avocados were something you should have in your diet, because one, they seem to be thinking that they were fat. That's it. However, as you said earlier, there's good fat and bad fat. So, avocados are one of the best fats that you can have. And there's a theory about you should have at least one avocado a day, and it's not going to make you gain weight, as long as you're not doing other things that are causing the weight gain. But the avocado will not make you gain weight, nor will the olive oil if it's used within reason. So
absolutely.
let's just say 100%. That avocados are a hero. By the way, they're also good for facials. People don't know that, but you can use an avocado as a mask. Yeah,
absolutely.
Avocado with yogurt, right?
So, absolutely. Okay. Avocado, because avocado is a fat, it's very oily, right? And a lot of times our skin is dry. So it helps our skin actually glow.
Right. Yeah. And you can put a little honey, avocado and yogurt, simple homemade mask.
That's absolutely right.
20 minutes. Yeah. Your skin will glow, and
it will absolutely go. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You'll love the skin that you're in. So let's get started.
Now we're going to eat it. And let's talk about dark chocolate for a moment, because that's another of your ingredients. So.
Oh yeah, so I have some 100% cacao, and so what you want to know about cacao, when it says, first of all, you want to get 100% cacao, because that's all it is. There's no added sugars or sweeteners or anything in it, and cacao is an antioxidant.
That's right.
So it is super good for your immunity. It's immune boosting for corona. It's anti-cancer causing, anti-inflammatory, helps heal the brain, all those things, just like the avocado does. So when you put the avocado and the chocolate together, it's really a double whammy. And it really tastes delicious. I know that you won't be able to taste it because we're virtual here, but I encourage you and all of your viewers to give it a whirl, and don't kind of like go, ooh, that doesn't sound good. Because
where did you get that? Where did you get that cacao, and what brand is it, so we know?
Okay. So I got this cacao at Thrive Market. Have you ever heard of Thrive?
Thrive Market. Oh my gosh, they're so great. You have to be a member.
Yes. But once you become a member, everything is discounted. So if you use Thrive Market often, you do actually save money. But if you become a member, you don't hardly use it, then that's not going to work for you. But
and not only that, not only are they discounted, but they have some products that you don't find anywhere else.
Anywhere.
They're kind of like I would say like almost a French designer clothing or Italian. They have these products that you would just never see anywhere, and yet they're so good. And so Thrive Market.
It's like boutique-y kind of, I guess I would say.
Boutique.
And the other thing that I'll mention about Thrive, just another little plug-in, and I get nothing from them, is that you can filter it. So when you go online onto Thrive Market and you want certain, like say you want only kosher foods, or you want foods without sugar, you can filter it, and then you put the filter in, and then it'll bring up all of those foods. So it makes your shopping a whole lot easier. So
and they give a lot of discounts. I have their I was on them for a while, and then I had to get off. So for the time that I got off, I keep getting these offers, 20% off your order. they love to give you discounts. So that's
Absolutely.
another. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Kara. I don't want to lose.
No worries. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a quarter of an avocado. We're going to use almond milk today. So this is about 1 cup of, and it's unsweetened almond milk. So there's no sugar added at all, but loaded with calcium. So a lot of people like to do smoothies with water because they don't want to use the calories from the milk, but I really do encourage a non-dairy milk to get the calcium and just make sure it's unsweetened. Okay. So we're going to add.
So, and I would not recommend soy milk because soy is an estrogen disruptor. And of course, you know, even in Australia, they don't even allow soy for children. So I would stay with almond or coconut milk, and you can do vanilla, but just don't get any with sugar. And definitely add that to your smoothies instead of water for sure.
Yes, it's a good idea. Okay, now I'm going to just take about a quarter of the avocado, and that's our fat piece, right? Because we talked about and this is a meal, by the way. So when we're making a meal, we want to include all the components. We want to include vegetables and proteins and fats and carbs. So, so this is part of our fat piece, and I'm not using a whole lot, right? Because I want to just use what I need. I don't need to like overindulge in the avocado. It's got a lot of fat, so a little bit goes a long way. The other fat that I'm going to use today, just to give it a nice flavor, is almond butter, which also has nice protein in it as well.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know about almonds is that they actually are a pretty decent source of calcium too.
Yeah.
So they're
protein and calcium.
Protein, fat, and calcium. And this actually is from Trader Joe's. I don't know if you have Trader Joe's over there, but
Trader Joe's originated where I'm from in San Francisco. That was the very first Trader Joe's was in Northern California. So yeah, we're huge, and they're in every town, you know, major community here for sure. I don't know what I would do without Trader Joe's.
Well, like over here in I live in Miami Beach, and over here about, I would say 6 to 8 months ago, they opened the first one near my house. And it's like gangbusters. I mean, they're kind of like Thrive Market. They have all the coolest products. Everything is so affordable. And the people are so nice. I mean, it's during this whole Corona thing, I go to every single grocery store because it's hard to find what you need. And also I do that because I like to tell my viewers and my clients like where to go, what to get. And by far of all the grocery stores, my favorite place to go is Trader Joe's. They always have everything I need. I do have to wait. I wait about an hour to get in there, but I get out of there. I have everything that I need. So I'm a big fan.
Yeah. Well, we're together on that one too. Okay.
Yeah. So next I have, this is just a mixture of spinach and like a half of a frozen banana. And so when I make my smoothies, one of the things that I do, another little hack that I like to tell my clients is that I make bags. So this is, I don't know if you could see it well, it's a silicone bag.
Yeah.
And what I do is I pre-pack the ingredients for my smoothie ahead of time so that all I need to do is go into my freezer, grab my little pack, and then really all I need to add usually is almond milk and maybe some protein powder or something like that. And it just saves a lot of time. And it helps me have the smoothies more often because I'm a little bit more organized. And then this little, I mean, you could use like any bag, but these save so much space and they're reusable. So they're really good for the environment, better than using like a Ziploc bag or something like that. So I feel really good about using these silicone liners. They sell them, like I see them all over Instagram, Amazon. You can find them anywhere.
Okay, that's something I didn't know about. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, those are great. So I just took the bag and I stuck this in the bowl so you could see it. But all it is about a cup of frozen spinach and a half a frozen banana. And you don't have to freeze your fruit and vegetable, but I think it just makes the smoothie taste better because it's really nice and cold.
Yeah. Well, I always put ice in the bottom. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. So you can absolutely use ice too, but sometimes I feel like the ice waters it down a little bit. So when it's frozen, you don't actually need the ice.
Right.
But some people don't like it frozen. It's really your own preference. I like a thick, smooth smoothie as opposed to more of a liquidy one. So it's really your preference, right?
Yeah. Well, when I make it in the Vitamix, you can make it like an ice cream, which I know you have recipes for that too. but
Yes.
I actually eat my smoothies more in a bowl.
Like a smoothie bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, I take the bowl and then I put, like some cranberries and pecans and some hemp seeds or
Yes.
chia seeds
Awesome.
on top, and that gives it like you're eating cereal without having all the simple carbs of a cereal. So
100%.
it's a real
Yeah,
treat.
that's great.
And you're doing protein powder, I see.
Yes, so this is optional. If you want to, we got some protein from the peanut butter, but if you really want to make it a full meal, then I would add a protein source. So this is Tara's Whey. It's unsweetened whey protein. I like it a lot, mostly because it doesn't have that aftertaste. A lot of protein powders do have a little funky aftertaste, and people don't really like it. This one I find does not have that. The other thing I use also for protein, if I don't want to use protein powder, are hemp seeds, which you had mentioned. They are an excellent source of protein, and they're vegetable based. So if you're a vegan or vegetarian, that's a great protein source. This is whey protein, so it is not vegetarian.
Right.
Okay.
But I use whey protein, but I use the raw. The one that's raw, unfiltered, it's all, I should say grass fed. The cows that make up the whey are grass fed cows.
Yeah, this one also, I don't know if you could see, but this one also, right on the label, it says that it comes from the grass fed cow.
And you can get that at Whole Foods, which is Amazon, so you can get it on Amazon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay. So pretty much that's all the ingredients. We put 1/4 of an avocado. We put 1 cup of unsweetened almond milk, a tablespoon of almond butter, a cup of baby spinach, half a frozen banana, and the protein powder. So really simple ingredients, not a whole lot. And then we're just going to blend it together.
Right.
So excuse the noise when it turns on.
Yeah, that's okay. Who's going to get to have this goodie afterwards? Is that going to be your kids or Michael? Or you? You. Okay, good. You deserve it, Kara. You've worked hard.
Okay, so that's pretty much it. Let me go. I'll be right back. I'm just going to grab a cup so I can pour it and show you. Hang on one second.
Okay.
Okay, so here we go. So it's super thick and creamy.
Wow, I'm getting hungry now just looking at that. I want some. Now you're inspiring me. Hey, Kara, you know what? I just looked at my watch and I can't even believe how fast the time went by for us today. So
I know, it's crazy.
Yeah, so this is great, but I would like you to have a moment because I know our viewers are going to want to talk to you, and some of them will want to understand more about what they can do on a personal consultation basis. So I know you said you wanted to offer to our viewers a consideration. Could you tell us about that and give us the information for how we can reach you?
Absolutely. If anybody has any questions about, any of the recipes, or if they want to talk to me about the relationship with food and wanting to get a better relationship, or if you're interested in clean eating programs, anything like that, you can reach me via phone. My phone number is 305-984-6220. I also am on social media. So on Facebook, you can find me at my company name, which is, I think, were we able to flash it on the screen, the Nutrition Your Way?
I think Tony said he was going to try to do that, but I don't see it right yet. But go ahead and say it, and then we'll have it on it'll be on my website anyway. Okay.
So my website will be nutritionyourwayinc.com. And just so you know, it's spelled, Way is spelled not W-A-Y, but W-E-I-G-H.
Right.
Like your weight. It's a little pun on the word. So it's Nutrition Your Way, W-E-I-G-H, Inc., I-N-C.com. And if you go on there, you can just read about, my background and some of the programs that I do. And you can actually fill out a questionnaire and ask me any questions. And it will send an email to me. And then I can reach back out to you and talk to you about whatever it is that your health concerns are, and we can move forward. So I encourage anyone that would like to have a small, short, maybe 30-minute conversation and ask me any questions. I will offer that free of charge to any of your viewers.
Oh, that's so wonderful, Kara.
Thank you.
And the other thing, I know you have your 21-day program. We didn't get to talk about that, but on your website, it does describe that program, correct? The 21-day?
Yes, absolutely. If you go onto my website, there's a couple of different tabs on there. And one of the tabs that you can click onto is called Clean Eating. You go on the Clean Eating tab, it'll talk all about my 21-day clean eating program. It's basically a challenge. It's not forever. It's just a challenge to kind of reboot your system and kind of get all the toxins and junk out. And basically it's whole foods, not processed, no wheat, sugar, or dairy for 21 days. And I guide you through the whole thing, all the recipes, all the protocols, all the guidelines, all the products I recommend. I take you through the whole process and support you through the entire way. So, try and make it fun and easy.
Well, this has been quite extraordinary, Kara, and I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing with us your insights and your ideas. And people can work with you by Skype or Zoom or
virtual. Absolutely.
Yeah, virtual. So you can be, they can be anywhere in the world.
Anywhere in the world.
And still have your services. Okay, good. All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you again. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll have a little close here, and you can stay on with us. But I think Tony has given me the signal, so I have to say goodbye. Okay, everybody. Well, we had quite an experience today, learning about how to take responsibility for our well-being, which these COVID-19 times and any time really, but this is obviously heightened awareness for all of us throughout the world to the fact that if you don't take responsibility for your health, no one else is going to do it. And you don't want to wait till a crisis. And so the people that have the strongest immune systems and have really used food and supplements, so nutrition and supplements to support them in these times, will be the ones who will be the strongest and will be able to fight any invader like this horrible COVID-19 virus. So Kara has been very generous in offering her services. A 30-minute consultation will be worth a lifetime of change for a lot of people if they can access her knowledge and information. So we're very lucky that she could join us today. And I want to thank all of you for coming and watching Ageless and Timeless. And be sure to subscribe to our channel. We are on YouTube. And also we have a website, agelessandtimeless.com, where every podcast is there for you as a reference. And of course, the Michelle Recommends page gives you the offers that all of our guests, or most of our guests, provide to our viewers. So if you access that page, you'll find lots of goodies, which in this time, we're all looking for ways to save money. So our guests are very generous. So thank you again. Have a beautiful day. This is Michelle Hughes signing off for Ageless and Timeless. Thanks again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
My love for you is immeasurable. My respect for you immense. You're ageless, timeless, lace and fineness, your beauty